All right, so video 2 in our management series, we are talking about the 4 functions of management. We talked about the planning function in the last video, and so we're going to continue on with the other 3 functions of management here in this video. So the next function of management is to organize the resources of the firm. So we know what our goal is. We've got our plan. Now, how are we going to organize the land, the labor, the capital, the knowledge and skills and abilities, the financial resources, all of that in order to start achieving those goals and moving us towards those goals. So one of the things that I think is really important in looking at when you're thinking about organizing is the firm's organizational chart. An organizational chart is a visible representation of how the firm is organized. So this is looking at people, but once you kind of have the people organized, which are the most important part of any organization, then logically the other resources start to fall into place. And so in this slide, I give a really simple example of an organizational chart. But we start at the top with the president. And in this case, we've got human resource vice president, a finance vice president, and a marketing vice president below. So this is a very simple company. Not sure what they do, it doesn't matter. But let's follow below this finance vice president. He's got 2 areas under him, accounting and treasury. So accounting is about keeping track, doing budgets, doing projections, those kinds of things. Treasury is going to be about borrowing money, issuing bonds. How do we get money in and out of this company to grow? And so we go ahead and look under accounting, and they've got the accounting department, the tax department. They would probably have a payroll department as part of finance or accounting. And so we can see what's going on. And so when we start to see these, then we know, okay, the accounting department is going to need computers and desks and lots of copiers and that kind of thing, printers. When we look at the tax department, same kind of thing. They're going to need that kind of equipment. So we can start to see where the resources. If this company had some kind of production, then obviously we would put the factory and the machinery needed for production in with the people who are actually doing the producing. So once you know what your departments are and what people are there, the rest of it starts to follow. What I also want you to notice is as we look down the organizational chart, what we see is a hierarchy. So vertically, we are representing the hierarchy, who reports to whom. So these 3 vice presidents report to this president. The heads of these 2 departments are going to report to Paul here. And then we're going to have some department heads here are going to report to this accountant, who's going to report to Paul, who reports to Mark. So we see who reports to whom. That's good information to have. And if we look across the organization chart, we're seeing the functions that are represented in this company. HR, finance, marketing. We see recruitment, accounts payable, sales. So looking across the board is very, very helpful as well. So I will tell y'all a quick story. One summer, my husband and I did some focus groups. And for a local company, they were looking at employee satisfaction at their company. And for the most part, their employees were quite satisfied. But there were 2 questions that the company did not perform well when they did this satisfaction survey. And so they wanted to look a little bit more into why were people unhappy in these two areas. And so we brought in focus groups with included people of all levels of the company in all different areas of the company to come in and talk about those two questions. And it turned out to be an organization chart problem. The company had changed their organization chart basically every 2 or 3 years for the past 10 years, to the point where people did not know who they reported to, or they felt like their new bosses did not know what their jobs entailed. And so they weren't satisfied with their ratings and their evaluations that they were getting from their boss because they didn't feel like their boss knew what they did. And these constant changes were making people very unhappy. It's kind of funny because once we kind of figured out that this was the problem, that there was constant churning of the organization chart, we tried to look at this organization's org chart, which was very, very, it's a huge organization. It was complex. We go to the website and the org chart was under construction yet again. They were making more changes. So when you're looking for a job, this is a great resource. Go look at the org chart, see how they're organized, and that may lead you to some questions to ask when you're going for your interview. All right, so that's the organization function. The third function of management is leading. This is probably the one that you think of the most when you think of organizations and management. So this is using your management methods to get people to work towards that firm's goals and to keep the firm's interest at heart. So motivating and leading means you want to keep them invested in the firm being successful. It's really, really interesting. All of you are here at Baylor in the business school because you are going to be managers one day. That is, your goal is not to be a tiny cog in a giant machine. It's to be management and to move up in the company. And so it is really important to understand what motivates people. Some people, it's really obvious. It's money. So give them a raise, give them a bonus. They'll work like a dog for you if they know that that's always a possibility. Some people like recognition. Recognition could be a promotion. It could be a promotion with very little money, but a better title, and a lot of people will get very excited over that because they want that title. They want to be able to impress their friends with, oh yes, I was just, given a promotion. I'm now a blah, blah, blah at my company. Other people want more of a pat on the back type of recognition. So it could be that at a meeting you say, hey, Geraldine did a fabulous job on that project. Everybody give her a hand and tell her what a great job she did. So a little public pat on the back. Or it could be that you just like to have that little private pat on the back. Your boss comes in and says, man, I really appreciate how you handled that customer yesterday. I know she was difficult and you did a great job. That might make some people work really, really hard for you, that loyalty that they feel when they feel recognized. Awards go a long way. That could be monetary. It could be just, a little statuette or a little certificate, but for some people that's a big, big deal. So understanding your people and what motivates them to work hard is going to be really, really important, and to keep them keeping the best interest of the firm in front of them and working hard to make that firm successful. All right, the fourth and last function of management is controlling. And controlling, we've got this plan, we've got these goals and a plan, and we've organized our resources to move us towards that plan. We've motivated our workers to move us forward in the plan. So now we need to see, are all of these things that we're doing helping us achieve the goals and the plan? So with controlling, we're going to make sure we're getting there to our goal. And so some of the ways that we can do that, or one of the ways that we can do that, is we set a performance standard. So this is some kind of achievable, measurable goal for the employees. So maybe it's how many units of the output you produce per day. It could be, preparing accurate forecasts and budgets. It could be how many sales calls you make. I give several examples here. Did you process the paychecks correctly and on time? So we set a performance standard, and then the next thing we do is we say, okay, are we achieving that standard? Compare our actual performance to the standard. So this department was given a budget of $10,000 and they spent $20,000. So they did not achieve, the standard was spend $10,000, they spent $20,000. Now we're not meeting the standards. Let's figure out why. Was the standard not achievable? Or was it that they overspent and we need to figure out where they overspent and correct that for the future? Okay, so that's one thing, comparing budgeted to actual, comparing projections to actual. Did you produce the number of units we expected you to produce every day? And if not, what can we do to help you achieve that goal? How can we fix this? Is it a problem with our standard? Is it a problem with your performance? And if it's a problem with your performance, let's get it corrected. That's the controlling function. So all of that is about, let's keep moving us forward to achieving the firm's goals. Okay, hope that makes sense for everybody. So our last topic for this video are the different levels of management. So 3 levels of management that we're going to talk about: the first line manager, the middle manager, and the top managers. All right, first line manager, they're the ones that are supervising the workers doing the work of the firm. So first line managers are expected to kind of solve those day-to-day problems. They need to make sure that their area has the materials that they need. So they might be involved in ordering materials for their people. They might be involved in helping an employee with a task that maybe their employee is struggling with, to watch them, make sure they're doing their task correctly. They're going to be looking at a very small part of the overall firm. Titles are supervisor, team leader, foreman, office manager, those kinds of titles. Middle manager supervises the first line managers, and they are starting to work at implementing the overall strategies of the company. So they're going to be taking those strategic plans and starting to develop tactical and operational plans. So they're going to be taking that strategic plan, breaking it down into the smaller parts so that they can help achieve the overall strategic plan. So supervision and planning are important parts of what a middle manager does. Organization, controlling, all of those things. They're going to be doing all of those functions quite a bit in the middle management level. Got some titles here: department head, plant manager. Typically with a plant manager, that means you have multiple factories that you're talking about, and so this person is the head of this particular factory. And if you think about a factory setup or a plant setup, you've got the overall manager, and then you're going to have lots of those first line managers who are watching the workers do the work. So it's definitely a middle management kind of position. So plant or factory manager, operations manager, or perhaps vice president. Those are typical titles for middle managers. Top management is responsible for developing and implementing that strategic plan and achieving the firm's goals. So they're going to guide and control all of the areas of operation. So titles can include things like Chief Executive Officer, President, Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Senior VP are typically upper managers. We often refer to these top managers as the C-suite executives because so many of them do have a C in their title, that chief. President, of course, is also one. So that's the end of video 2, and I'm going to stop here.